They mocked me for marrying a fisherman, they laughed at our dockside life, called us small and simple. But what my family never knew was that the man they looked down on was quietly building something powerful, something that would one day leave them shocked, desperate, and begging for our help. Hi lovelies, welcome back to Tales by Laura. Today's story is one you won't forget. It's about love, betrayal, family pride, and the sweetest kind of revenge. Imagine giving your heart to a man the world thinks is beneath you, only to discover that same man holds the key to a fortune, respect, and power they could never dream of. So, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss another jaw-dropping story like this one. Trust me, you'll want to stay till the very end. The champagne glasses chimed like tiny bells while my sister Simone's toast floated over the reception hall, sweet enough to rot a tooth. Folks laughed a second too loud, and 180 heads swung toward me and my husband, Malik. I'm Layla, and that was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, except Simone never misses a chance to remind everyone where I rank in the Steele family pecking order. She glowed in a couture bridesmaid gown, basking at the head table like a talk show host, while I sat in Nana's altered lace dress trying to blink back the heat behind my eyes. Layla, baby, smile, my mother, Deloise, hissed, fingers pinching my arm with polite precision. People are watching. People had always watched, waiting to see which Steele sister would trip first. Spoiler, the smart money was on me. Under the table, Malik's rough palm found mine, his thumb tracing light circles that steadied my breathing. His brown eyes held mine, calm, grounded. Let them chuckle, he murmured, breath warm at my A. We know what's real. Lord, I love that man, even with a dusting of salt from the docks still clinging to his cuffs because yes, he'd insisted on checking the boat motors that morning. On our wedding day. That's Malik. Honest hands. Honest work. I still can't believe you married a fisherman, my youngest sister, Joy, whispered as she slid into the empty chair. At 26, she plays peacekeeper and paramedic to our family's paper cuts. I think it's romantic, but Mama's been chewing antacids like mints. Appreciate the pep talk, I said, watching Simone hold court. At 33, she's a polished one, grad school pedigree, glossy office uptown, a husband in 1,000 thread count suits who turns dinner into a market recap. I didn't mean, Joy began, but our father, Harold, tapped the mic. I'd like to say a few words about my daughter, Layla. My stomach dipped. Nothing good starts that way. Layla has always been singular, he said, and I caught Simone smack behind her flute. While her sisters chased traditional achievement, Layla chose a different route. A simpler one. Simpler dropped heavy as a gavel. She's chosen Malik, Daddy went on, pausing for effect, a man who works with his hands and understands hard work. We wish them contentment in their modest life. Polite claps, cool as tile. Mama dabbed her eyes, whether for joy or mourning, I couldn't tell. Your dad's laying it on thick, Malik said softly. He practiced that speech, I muttered, watching Simone lean into her husband, Carter, both of them laughing in that way that says the joke lives on my back. This was my family, turning my wedding into a eulogy for the version of me they'd written off. My degree, my classroom awards, the tiny coastal market I'd built selling sea salt soaps and preserved lemon jam, none of it mattered because I'd picked love over ladder climbing. You know what? I stood. My chair scraped loud enough to slice the chatter. Heads turned. I lifted my water, too practical to waste champagne, and looked right at Simone. To family, I said, voice clear, and to learning who's truly for you when it actually counts. Her smile wobbled, then re-brightened. Glasses lifted. A line drew itself in the room. No one else noticed, but I did. As I sat, Malik leaned toward me. That's my wife. I didn't know then how prophetic that would be. 4 years later, I stood in Simone's marble foyer balancing a casserole that probably cost less than her doormat. The annual steel cookout hummed outside. Clinks, curated laughter, and conversations shaped like trophies. Layla! Mama trilled when I stepped onto the patio. We were just talking about the new lake house Carter closed on. Tomorrow we. Of course you were. Simone flowed over in a cloud-white sundress, smiling like a magazine cover. "Oh, you brought food," she said, eyeing my dish like it might have legal consequences. "How thoughtful." "Smoky green bean bake," I said, setting it beside the catered spread. "From our own kitchen." "Is it artisan?" Carter asked, strolling up with a 2-crisp polo and a martini, "or just basic?" "It's homemade," Malik answered, quiet at my shoulder, boots clean but real among the designer everything. "Right, the water thing," Carter nodded, amused. "Still chasing waves." "We're doing fine," I said evenly. "The docks have been in the black for almost 3 seasons straight." Simone laughed, chimes in a storm. "In the black? That's precious. Carter just wrapped a deal worth more than your little PM makes in a decade." Daddy arrived with a bourbon. "That reminds me," he said, too casual. "This fishing venture, when are you planning to do something more substantial?" "We're happy," Malik said. "The work's honest." "Honest?" Carter echoed, swirling his martini. "Cute word. Watching you two at family events is like a nature special. Observe the simple boat folks in their native habitat." A few guests chuckled. Joy looked over, winced, said nothing. "At least we sleep well," I said before I could swallow it. Silence. Carter's smile thinned. "What is that supposed to mean?" Simone's voice sharpened. "Nothing," I said lightly. "Hands on work tires you out." The A trembled. Mama clapped bright hands. "Who wants to see the new cabana?" People drifted toward the latest showpiece. Malik squeezed my arm. "Gonna check the truck windows," he murmured, the code for getting air. "I'll come." "Enjoy your family," he said gently, and we both tasted the irony. I stood alone by the pool, sunlight skittering across water that probably costs more to treat than our monthly grocery run. Laughter floated from the tour. I wondered, just for a second, what it might feel like to belong on the inside of all that polish. "They're extra awful today," Joy said, appearing with 2 glasses of wine. "Today?" I took one. "This is Tuesday for them." She hesitated. "Things are tense." With Carter's firm. "Tense how?" "I shouldn't." She scanned the patio, lowered her voice. Some of his big plays tanked. Simone's hinted about adjusting their lifestyle. Before I could respond, Simone's voice cut the air. "Layla, help us settle something." I went back, wine in hand, armor thin. "We're debating career arcs," Simone beamed. "And I was telling everyone you've really found your lane. I mean, not everyone can handle the intellectual rigor of, what do you call it? Subsistence net casting." Laughter on cue. "Do you ever wonder," she stepped closer, "what you might have accomplished if you'd really applied yourself, instead of settling for that quaint little dock life?" Each word hit a tender place I thought I'd scabbed over. "You're right," I said quietly. "Real life does happen. Sometimes in ways you never see coming." And that, though none of them knew it yet, was the first crack in their mirror. 8 months after the cookout, the shine on Simone's perfect life started to dull. First came the missed calls. My parents, who never failed to update me on Simone's latest triumph, went strangely quiet. When Mama did pick up, she sounded like she was reading from a script missing every other page. "How's Simone?" I asked, stirring a pot of gumbo while Malik filleted bluefish on the back porch. "Oh, you know your sister. Busy, always building something big." A pause long enough to park a bus in. "Carter's, fine. Gotta run, your father's calling." Click. Deloise Steele does not hang up unless somebody's bleeding or the church bus just pulled off without her. I stayed at my phone, a knot settling in my chest. The next red flag unfurled at Joy's birthday dinner. We met at a little trattoria on the east side. No white tablecloth theatrics. No flash. The Steele family does not do no flash. That should have told me everything. "Where's everybody else?" I asked as Joy slid into the booth across from me and Malik. "Mom and Dad had a conflict." She toyed with a breadstick, avoiding my eyes. "Simone and Carter are dealing with work stuff." "Work stuff on a Saturday?" Joy sighed. "It's complicated." "How complicated?" She looked around like spies might be crouched behind the pepper mill, then leaned in. "Carter's firm tripped over some canteen misplays. Big ones. Simone's been talking about scaling back. Something mean and small fluttered in my chest. Not joy, something close to relief wrapped in shame. I pushed it down so hard it scraped. How bad? Malik asked, voice low. Bad enough they listed the lake house and that ridiculous speedboat, Joy said, finally meeting my eyes. She's been sniffing around for short-term help from the inner circle. A quote's sharp enough to cut. She asked you, I said. Joy laughed once. No humor. Me? She thinks my salary is monopoly money. Has she called me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Joy's face softened. No. Maybe because she assumes you don't have anything to give. Right, I said, lifting my water. We're just dog folk. What could we possibly know about real money? We let the topic drift away, but I felt Malik watching me. He knows the sound of my thoughts when they start turning sharp edges. 3 days later, we were hauling late-season crab pots when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hello. Layla. Mama's voice sounded thinner than I remembered. It's your mother. My stomach went cool. You okay? I'm fine, baby. Just tired. Listen, can you come by the house this weekend? There's something we need to discuss. As a family. Those words, as a family, have always been code for brace yourself. What kind of something? Better in person. Saturday afternoon. 3 o'clock. I looked at Malik. He pretended not to listen, hands steady on the rope, jaw tight. Sure, I said. Need me to bring anything? Just you. And Malik. She hung up like the phone was hot. Family meeting. Malik asked without looking up. Yep. About the trouble Joy mentioned. Most likely. That night, we lay in the dark listening to the hush of the tide slide under the pier. I stared at the faint rectangle of the window and counted my heartbeats. I won't lie, part of me was almost energized. After years of being the Steele family cautionary tale, they were finally headed to my doorstep. The irony tasted like lemon on a cut. Whatever they ask you, Malik said as we turned into my parents' driveway on Saturday, remember you don't owe them a thing. I know. Do you? He glanced sideways, mouth a firm line. You've got a soft heart, lie. They know how to pull on it. I looked at the house I grew up in, perfect lawn, shutters straight as teeth. Smaller than it used to feel. Less mythic. I'll be fine, I said. As we climbed the steps, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emergency family meeting. Please come. We need you. Simone, asking me for help. The same sister who called my life quaint, and my work subsistence. I tucked the phone away and rang the bell, pulse drumming in my throat. The living room looked arranged by a stage manager, Mama and Daddy on the couch, faces pulled tight. Simone perched on the armchair's edge, designer blouse wrinkled in a way I'd never seen. Carter by the window, back turned, hands jammed into his pockets like he could keep the world out by force. Joy hovered on the ottoman, all apology, and Simone's little girl, Talia, 8 and always immaculate, clutched a stuffed dolphin like a talisman. Layla. Malik. Daddy gestured to 2 chairs planted dead center like witness boxes. Thank you for coming. We Saturday. The silence had a shape. So, I said, because someone had to puncture it. What's going on? Mama twisted her wedding band. Tell. We wanted to talk about the situation. What situation? Carter turned. The swagger was gone. Desperation had moved in and put its feet on the table. Cut it out. Layla, he snapped. You know what this is. Carter, Simone warned, but her voice didn't have its usual steel. Joy watched her hands like they might offer answers. They've had some losses. Losses, Daddy repeated, a little too loud, as if by speaking first he could control the narrative. Significant ones. How significant? I asked. Mama's eyes glossed. We could lose everything. Even braced, the words punched the air out of the room. Talia pressed her dolphin tighter. What does everything mean? Malik asked quietly. The house, Daddy said. The savings. Retirement. He swallowed. Carter made some investments on our behalf that soured. I looked at Carter, who stared at me like this was all somehow my fault for being in the room to hear it. "I'm sorry," I said carefully, "but I don't know what you want from us." "We need your help," Simone said, and for the first time in our lives, my sister looked at me without condescension, only naked, human fear. "Our help how?" I asked. Daddy didn't flinch. "Your land." I blinked. "Come again." "The pier," Mama said, voice shaking but resolute. "The boatyard. If you sell, we can clear the debt and reset." Malik's hand found mine. Steady. Warm. Anchoring. "You want us to sell our home and our work," I said slowly, "to fix choices you made?" "It's not about blame," Carter snapped. "It's about family. Doing what's right." "What's right?" I repeated, and the words came out sharp enough to shave with. "Asking us to give up everything we've built so you can keep what you bought." Simone stood, composure finally cracking. "Layla, you are playing house on planks and pilings. This is real life. Real consequences. For decisions you made," I said. "We are family," Mama cried, tears spilling. "Family helps family. Where was this family when you smacked through every holiday?" My voice shook, but it didn't waver. "When you called our work small. When you treated Malik like a mascot." "That's not fair," Daddy said, but even he didn't sound convinced. "Isn't it?" Carter exhaled hard through his nose. "It's wood and water, Layla. You can rebuild a dock anywhere." The room went quiet in that particular way that says someone just handed you their worst. Malik rose slowly, deliberate as the tide. "We should go," he said. "Wait," Mama pleaded. "Just think about it. Please." Daddy's voice hardened. "We don't have time. We need an answer by Monday." "Monday?" I stared. 2 days to decide if we should erase our lives for you. "Don't be dramatic," Simone said, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "We're talking about futures," she added, chin lifting toward Talia. "Has?" Something cold slipped into my chest at the implication that because Malik and I didn't have children, our life weighed less. "We're leaving," I said, standing. "Layla, please." Mama's voice splintered. I paused at the doorway and looked back at the people who share my blood but kept missing my heart. "I'll think about it," I said. "And you should think, too, about what it means to ask someone to lose everything to fix what you broke." We stepped into the evening, and Daddy's voice followed us like a thrown stone. "You'll come to your senses once you remember what you owe this family." Malik's hand tightened on the truck handle. I looked at him, at the clean lines of the boatyard silhouetted against the water, at the gulls pinwheeling above our cranes and skiffs. "What exactly do we owe them?" I said, not quietly this time, after 30 years of being their disappointment. No one answered. The road home answered for them, gravel ticking under the tires like a clock counting down. Back at the pier, twilight laid gold along the planks. The air smelled like salt and engine grease and lemon from the soap we used to scrub our hands clean. Everything I loved about my life was right there, solid as the pilings, bright as the bulbs strung over the yard. "I need to show you something," Malik said, closing the truck door. "I'm not selling," I blurted. "I don't care if." "I know," he said. "This isn't that." He led me to the office tucked behind the workshop, familiar walls, unfamiliar tension. He went straight to a locked drawer I'd never seen him open. "Sit," he said, pulling out a thick, worn folder. "Malik, you're scaring me. I'm done letting other people tell you who we are." He opened the folder and began laying out papers, contracts, technical drawings, bank statements with numbers that made my scalp tingle. "What is this?" "This," he tapped a schematic, "is the current that runs our lives. The precision tidal drive we cobbled together for Slip 3. I filed the patent 2 years ago." I read the header out loud. Hydroflux microturbine array, inventor, Malik Rivers. He slid over another. "This is the sonar mapping software, the one that tells us where the shoals creep, when the fish move, and how to navigate storms without guessing." Another patent application. Another approval letter. Another licensing deal. I looked up, mouth open. "Why didn't you?" "Because I wanted to build it before I bragged it," he said simply, Lie, this yacht isn't just a dock. It's an R&D lab with seagulls. How big? My voice came out small. He placed a statement in front of me. The final line swam, then focused. Is that? Are we? The company is, he said. Rivers Marine Systems. Started the week after we married. Tested everything right here. I blinked at my husband. You've been running a marine tech company this whole time. A very quiet one. He met my eyes. Most clients don't know where the solutions come from. They just know they work. Why let my family keep calling us small? He stacked the papers neatly, a tide smoothing sand, so they'd show you their real faces. And so when the day came, you'd never again mistake their approval for your worth. It landed in my chest like a bell. There's more, he said, voice turning flint. Carter's firm. Their biggest short this year was against Rivers Marine Systems. I went still. He bet against us. Against you, Malik said. No heat, just fact. With your parents' retirement, with his clients' futures, he assumed anything tied to dock folk was doomed. My phone buzzed. They're coming to the yard tomorrow. All of them. Dad says they won't take no. Joy. I showed Malik. He read it, then looked up, eyes calm and bright. Good, he said. Let them come. Malik, they're going to demand. They're going to learn. He slid the documents back into the folder like he was sheathing a blade. All of it. What are you planning? He gave me a smile I'd never seen on him, soft at the edges, steel at the center. A lesson in tides, he said. About what pulls you under, and what lifts you. They arrived like a storm, 3 cars crunching into our gravel drive right on the dot of 3. Dust curled up against their polished bumpers, clinging stubbornly to the paint. I watched from the kitchen window as they climbed out, Daddy straight-backed but weary, Mama fussing with her pearl necklace, Simone clutching a leather portfolio like it could keep her world together, Carter tugging at his tie as if the knot itself was choking him. Even little Talia had been dragged along, her white dress looking out of place among our weathered planks. Showtime, Malik murmured, straightening his faded button-down. He refused to wear anything but his usual, jeans, boots, sleeves rolled up. The same outfit they'd mocked for years. The knock on our door was Daddy's. Sharp. Official. I opened it to find them lined up like a delegation, Joy lingering behind them, holding Talia's hand. We need to talk, Daddy said. No greeting. Come in, I replied, stepping aside. They filed into our living room. It was the same room they'd seen a dozen times. Handmade quilts, photographs of fish fries and graduations, driftwood art on the walls. But now their eyes scanned it like appraisers, calculating value instead of memories. Please sit, Malik said, calm as ever, motioning to the couch. We'll stand, Carter snapped. His voice shook beneath the bravado. This won't take long. Daddy pulled a folder from under his arm and set it on our coffee table with a thud. We brought the paperwork. To make things easier. Sale documents. Our land. Our dock. Appraised. Buyer lined up. All we had to do was sign. You had our property appraised without asking. My voice came out colder than I felt. We're trying to be efficient, Mama said quickly, her smile brittle. Time is critical. Whose time? Malik asked evenly. Don't play games, Carter snapped. You know what's at stake. Your parents could lose their house. Simone and I could lose everything. Talia could lose her future. Daddy, what's happening? Talia whispered. Nothing, baby, Simone said too fast. Just adult talk. I looked at them, this family who had called me small, who laughed at my choices. And yet here they stood, demanding I bleed for them. You're right, Malik said suddenly, breaking the silence. Family should care for one another. Relief washed across Mama's face. Thank God. I knew you'd see sense. Malik walked to his desk in the corner and returned with a thick manila folder, the same one he'd shown me the night before. He set it gently on top of our sale documents. What's this? Simone asked, suspicion sharp in her tone. Information, Malik said, settling back into his chair. About who we are, and what this dock really is. We don't have time for theatrics, Daddy said. We need a decision. You'll get one, Malik replied. But first, Carter, in your professional opinion, what's this yard worth? Carter glanced around with a sneer. Maybe 250, 300 tops. Old boats, some gear. Decent location, but hardly prime. Malik's lips twitched. Interesting. He opened the folder and slid out a patent. Hydroflux microturbine array. Filed 3 years ago. Currently licensed across half a dozen coastal states. He laid it on the table. What is this? Mema whispered. He laid down another. Sonar mapping system, used by independent fisheries nationwide. Then another. Dockside filtration prototype, backed by federal grants. One by one, he stacked them on top of the sale documents. This yard, Malik said, voice steady, is the headquarters of Rivers Marine Systems, a company worth $6 to $5 million. The room went silent. That's impossible, Carter stammered. Is it? Malik's eyes sharpened. You'd know. You shorted our stock, didn't you? With my in-laws' retirement. With your client's money. Color drained from Carter's face. You bet against us, Malik said softly. Because you believed nothing tied to dark folk could hold value. You staked everything on our failure. Joy gasped. Mama's hand flew to her mouth. Daddy's jaw clenched. And here's the twist, Malik continued. Every dollar you wagered against us landed in our accounts when our stock doubled. You didn't just lose, you lost to us. I watched as the truth sank like an anchor. At that moment, the front door opened. A man in a tailored suit strode in, briefcase in hand. Apologies for the delay, he said smoothly, setting the case on the table. Traffic was dreadful. I'm Charles Green, counsel for Rivers Marine Systems. He opened the case with deliberate care, spreading official documents across the table. For clarity, this property is fully owned by my clients. Free and clear. Protected under federal research grants. Any attempt to force a sale would be inadvisable. The sale papers Daddy had carried in looked pitiful against the crisp legal pages. Mima blinked. Federal grants. Oh yes, Malik said lightly. The Department of Energy is very interested in our work. We're developing tide-driven systems that can power whole towns. Carter sputtered. This doesn't change the fact that we're family. We need help. Family, I echoed, the word sharp as glass. I stood and picked up a photo from the mantel, me at college graduation, robe wrinkled, smile wide. Remember this day. You told me, Daddy, that I wasted 4 years studying water and weeds. I set it down, picked up another, our wedding photo. And this? You spent the reception apologizing for my poor choice. Layla, please, Mama whispered. I'm not finished. My voice shook but didn't waver. Every holiday, every birthday, you made sure I knew my place, the disappointment, the failure. And now, suddenly, I'm your lifeline. Simone's mascara streaked down her cheeks. We didn't know. You didn't care to know. I shot back. You saw what you wanted, people to look down on. Charles cleared his throat. One more matter. The financial losses. Mr. Carter Steele, as senior partner at Kingswell Investments, oversaw short positions against Rivers Marine Systems totaling nearly $3 million, largely from client retirement accounts. The room froze. 17 families, Malik said softly. 17 families who trusted you, and you gambled it all on your arrogance. We could sue, Daddy barked, desperate. Charles' smile was thin. Please do. A jury would love to hear how your son-in-law bet against your daughter's company and lost your fortune. What do you want from us? Simone whispered, broken. I looked around that room, my parents, my sister, the men who gambled away their lives. People bound by blood, but never by loyalty. I want you gone, I said. Out of my house. Out of my yard. Out of my life. Layla, we're sorry. Mama cried. No. Family doesn't tear you down for decades, then crawl back only when the tide turns against them. Simone clutched Talia's hand, desperation leaking from every line of her body. You'll regret this, Layla. One day, when you're old and alone, you'll regret turning your back on family. I met her eyes, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of her. Maybe, But I'll also remember this day, the day I stopped letting you define my worth. They left in a line, like mourners leaving a funeral, kicking up the same dust they brought in. And for the first time in 30 years, the silence they left behind felt like freedom. The silence after they left was thick but strangely whole. It wasn't empty, it was release, like the dock itself exhaled. Charles packed his briefcase with the same steady care he'd used to unpack it. "Well," he said, snapping the latches, that unfolded exactly as expected. "You've done this before?" I asked. "Not this particular show, but I've seen enough families split down the seam when desperation arrives. People show their truest selves when they are cornered." He straightened his tie, gave Malik a nod, and left us to the quiet. Malik and I sat on the porch, watching the sun sink into the horizon. The tide lapped against the pilings, steady, unbothered by all the drama humans cook up. "Do you think I was too harsh?" I asked finally. Malik didn't answer right away. He traced the grain of the railing with his fingers. "Do you remember Simone's toast at our wedding? About us playing in the mud?" I nodded. "Hard to forget." "I knew then," he said, eyes on the water, this moment would come. Maybe not like this, but one day, they'd show you who they were. He turned to me. "And now they have." "They're still my family," I whispered. "Are they?" The question hung like fog between us. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Joy's name lit the screen. I picked up. "Hey!" Her voice cracked with tears. "Layla, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you years ago." "Joy." "No, let me say it. I thought staying neutral was safe. But there's no neutral when someone you love is being mocked. I was a coward. And now, Daddy's out there telling people you abandoned the family. Mama's acting like you destroyed their lives. Simone." "What about Simone?" "She's bitter. Keeps saying you and Malik set her up, that you planned this whole thing." I laughed once, sharp. "We didn't plan anything. We just stopped pretending we were less than we are." "I know that. I know you. Even if I didn't defend you." Her voice broke. "Can you forgive me?" I looked out at the boats rocking gently, nets drying in the last glow of daylight. "You're calling me now, aren't you? That counts." "I want to see you," Joy said. "Not to ask for anything. Just, I miss my sister. The real one." "Dinner. Sunday night. Bring no drama." "Just me," she promised. When I hung up, Malik took my hand. "One down," he said. "Think the rest will ever come around." Does it matter? I thought of the years I'd spent bending myself into knots for their approval. Of every holiday where I shrank small so Simone could shine large. And I realized it didn't matter anymore. The next morning, I was pulling weeds from the herb beds when I heard a car crunch into the drive. My heart skipped. For half a second I thought my parents had come back, ready for round two. But it wasn't them. A woman in her 40s climbed out of a modest sedan. She wore jeans, carried a leather folder, and moved with the crisp purpose of someone who lived in deadlines. "Mrs. Rivers," she called, offering a smile. "I'm Angela Boyd from the Department of Energy. I was hoping to speak with you and your husband about your tidal systems." Malik came out of the workshop, wiping his hands. His smile was calm, confident. "Angela, right on time." She shook his hand. "The preliminary data you submitted is groundbreaking. Would like to fast-track the grant approval for expanded trials." "Grant approval?" I repeated. 2.7 million over 3 years, Angela said, matter-of-fact. "Your husband's work could redefine how coastal towns handle power. We're talking about lights and storm seasons, whole communities protected." I turned to Malik. "You didn't mention." "I wanted to be sure before raising your hopes," he said simply. As they dove into talk of protocols and timetables, I stood back, realizing the irony was so rich it was almost funny. My family had demanded we sacrifice everything, never knowing they were asking us to dismantle something that might keep other families from going dark during a hurricane. That evening, Malik and I walked the length of the pier. The sun laid gold across the water, the sky painted in bruised pink and orange. "Any regrets?" he asked. I thought of Mama's tears, Simone's mascara streaks, Daddy's threats, little Talia's wide eyes. I thought of 30 years of feeling small. Then I looked at Malik, at the steady man who built engines out of tides, who let me find my own worth. No, I said. No regrets. Even about them. They chose their story long before today, I said. They chose to see us as less, to bet against us. I stopped walking and faced him, the wind carrying the salt between us. I choose us. This life. This future we're building. Malik's smile softened. Good. Because I've got plans bigger than a $65 million company. Bigger. I laughed. He gestured to the open water. We're going to change how the world keeps its lights on, one tide at a time. And in that moment, with gulls circling overhead and the horizon stretched wide, I realized the part of me that had always begged for my family's approval was gone. In its place was something solid, something unshakable. I was exactly where I belonged. And for the first time in my life, that was enough. The following week, the phone barely stopped ringing. Daddy left long voicemails thick with guilt. Mama's messages swung from weepy apologies to veiled threats about what you owe. Simone didn't call directly, but her posts online painted me as the villain who turned her back on family. I didn't respond. Malik didn't even flinch. Instead, we buried ourselves in work. The grant papers were signed. Engineers from 3 states called daily, eager to collaborate. Our doc buzzed not with gossip but with purpose. Blueprints on clipboards, prototypes humming in sheds, the tang of salt mixing with the sharp bite of welding sparks. And me? I finally breathed without that old weight on my chest. One evening, I sat on the porch stringing beans for supper while Malik tightened bolts on a turbine. The hum of cicadas filled the pauses between our laughter. You know, I said, Simone warned I'd regret this day. That I'd remember it when I was old and lonely. Malik looked up, wiping his hands. And do you? I thought of Joy, who had already slipped back into my life with quiet dinners and real conversations. I thought of the grant officer who told us our work might keep thousands of homes lit through storms. I thought of the man across from me, the same one who steadied me under a wedding table, who turned ridicule into innovation. No, I said. I'll remember it as the day I stopped shrinking. Malik came to sit beside me. Good, because shrinking never fit you. Sunday, Joy came for dinner. No entourage, no apologies rehearsed into performances, just her and a homemade pound cake. We sat long after the dishes were cleared, telling stories that had nothing to do with money, status, or failure. For the first time in decades, I felt like I had a sister again. Months rolled forward. Simone and Carter sold off the lake house and the boat, clinging to whatever scraps of pride they had left. My parents stopped showing up unannounced. And me. I learned something vital. Peace tastes better than approval. The tide has a way of teaching patience. It goes out. It comes in. Steady. Relentless. Unstoppable. My family tried for years to convince me I was small, forgettable, disposable. But just like the tide, I returned again and again, stronger each time. Now, as Malik and I stand at the edge of the pier, watching our turbine spin against the setting sun, I know this truth deep in my bones. I am not small. We are not small. And together, we are building something that will outlast every insult, every laugh, every dismissal. The steels can keep their chandeliers and lake houses. Let them. We have tides. We have truth. And we have each other. That is more than enough. It is everything. If you've been hooked by this story so far, make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell, because there are plenty more shocking family dramas, betrayals, and unbelievable twists coming your way right here on Tales by Lope. And that's how the family who once mocked me for marrying a fisherman ended up standing in shock, facing the truth they never expected. Life has a way of humbling those who look down on others. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales by Lope for more captivating tales every week. And don't just stop there. Hit that notification bell so you'll be the very first to know when a new story drops. Until next time, lovelies, remember, never underestimate anyone, because today's fisherman could be tomorrow's game changer.